Africa has suffered and experienced violence through the acts of terrorism for many years. There are many terrorist organizations throughout Africa. The most deadliest of them all are Boko Haram in Nigeria and Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Boko Haram has overtaken ISIS. The terror group claimed 6,644 lives. And second in line is Al-Shabaab, which claimed 1,021 lives. Most terrorist organizations have grievances with governments, but Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab go beyond. Their sole aim is to establish Islamic State governments, caliphates, and Sharia law. To understand terrorism in Africa, David Otto explains.
One of the reasons why this is important for people to understand is because, I have been involved in talking to Cameroonians, in talking to Nigerians, talking to people from Chad and Niger, who solely and strongly believe that Boko Haram is a Nigerian problem alone. To them, the attack in Cameroon, the attacks in Niger and Chad, is only seen as an encroachment into their land. They believe that Boko Haram has spilled over to their territories. But when you go back to history, you can understand the reason why Boko Haram is in Cameroon, the reason why Boko Haram goes into Chad and Niger. In 1884, 1885, the Berlin Conference, which was held in Germany by Otto von Bismarck, summoned by Portugal, separated African countries. This region where you have Cameroon, Chad, Niger, had been part of the Sokoto and Kanem-Borno Caliphate. Within the Caliphate region, you had Cameroon was part of the, Northern Cameroon was part of the Caliphate, Northern Nigeria was part of the Caliphate, Southern Niger was part of the Caliphate, Eastern Chad was part of the Caliphate, and Southern Libya was also part of the Caliphate. So when Boko Haram is operating within the region of Northern Cameroon, Northern Niger, Chad, and Libya, they see this region as one. So for people to believe that Boko Haram has spilled over to different countries is a little bit premature because they do not see this as a spillover effect. Yes, we understand that the main Boko Haram organization started in Nigeria, but it could have started in Cameroon, it could have started in Niger, it could have started in Chad. But the understanding in the creation of an Islamic State runs around the area of Northern Cameroon, Northern Niger, Chad, and Libya. So to say that, Boko Haram is an organization that will only stay in Northern Nigeria was a false impression. Because when you go to this area, the boundaries that separates Cameroon, Niger, Chad, and Northern Nigeria are non-existent. So when somebody has a family in Northern Nigeria, has the same family in Northern Cameroon, that has been divided, by some geographical landmark, which is only on paper and not on ground, it is very difficult for us to say that, this organization only belongs to a certain country. So if you look at the area of Northern Cameroon and all these areas which I've mentioned before, families have been separated by the Berlin Conference, tribes have been separated, and the Kanuri tribe, which has most of the top commanders of Boko Haram, comes from this area. So if you go to Northern Cameroon, you have a Kanuri. You go to Chad, you have a Kanuri. You go to Northern Nigeria, you have a Kanuri. So the Kanuri tribe, which has most of the top leaders of Boko Haram, they come within all these areas, and they do not see these areas as different countries. So when they're in Cameroon, they don't believe that they're in Cameroon, they believe that they are within the Caliphate. They believe that they are within the Islamic State, a state which historically existed between the 11th and the 18th century under Umar Umai. So when you look at the geographical location of where Boko Haram is operating, it gives you that impression, it gives you that comfort, if you want to use that word, that this organization has a strategic geographical location that it is running within. So Boko Haram now being very close to Chad is not a surprise. Boko Haram operating in Cameroon shouldn't be seen as a surprise. Operating in Northern Cameroon shouldn't be seen as a surprise. So when you want to look at a global solution or you want to look at a regional solution on how to defeat Boko Haram, you have to be able to take this into consideration. Because by taking this into consideration, it now gives you the structure to address this issue, not just from the Nigerian perspective, but also to include Cameroon, to include Niger, Chad, and even Libya. Because if you don't include these regions as partners for a solution, what is going to happen is you're going to have a balloon effect. So if you defeat Boko Haram, if at all it can be defeated, if you defeat Boko Haram in northern Cameroon, and then you don't defeat it in northern Nigeria, what it will simply happen is, the cells that are still living in northern Nigeria would spill over to northern Cameroon again. So the geographical and the historical understanding of the Kanem-Bunu Empire, which existed between the 9th and the 18th century, but Islam was introduced, or the Islamic State were introduced between the 11th and the 18th century when the colonial masters came in, is very important to understand this. And this is the region which Boko Haram believes forms part of the Islamic Caliphate. So now for us to say that Boko Haram only is a Nigerian problem is naive, because these borders are so extensive, and these borders do not have what you refer to as a Berlin Wall. So these individuals, these militants within Boko Haram, simply move from one region to another, knowing fully well that it all belongs to them. So any solution, any long-lasting, sustainable solution that will see Boko Haram being defeated, any long-lasting solution that will see the capability, that will see the motivation, that will see the opportunity of Boko Haram denied within this region, has to take into consideration the regional implications of Boko Haram. So if you don't want to end this war, then concentrate on individual countries. But if you want to ensure that there is a sustainable solution, make sure that the issue of Boko Haram is addressed from a regional perspective. The introduction of democracy in these areas, the introduction of certain forms of government has divided Africa. But the only way to go further with this is for these regions to work as one. Otherwise, Boko Haram will survive for a very long time.